Hi, I'm Mark Little. I'm going to continue the series on client acquisition as a skill for financial advisors. And I've mentioned in previous videos, there's 4 skills around client acquisition that you must master. And the 4th skill is never missing an opportunity. So, what does that mean? What does it mean to never miss an opportunity when it comes to client acquisition? Well, it depends on your client acquisition methodology. Now, the methodology that I teach, the methodology that I've always used, is just getting out there and rubbing elbows with friends and acquaintances, and just making sure I'm interacting and rubbing elbows with enough non-clients every week um, to be able to acquire clients. All right. So I know the question. I know the question around all this is, Mark, how do you ever convert a just friend into a client? Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get back to never missing an opportunity. So if you're interacting with someone, just having a conversation, just being a nice person, you sit down with somebody and you grab coffee and you say, what's been going on in your life? And then at some point they ask you, so what's been going on in your life, Mark? And so it's a human conversation. And somewhere in there, what I'm saying is, if somewhere in there they mention something that might represent an opportunity to do business, I'm saying you can never miss that. And I've listened to lots of recordings over the years. Lots of advisors send me their recordings for coaching. And the number one thing that I notice is how many opportunities are being missed. That the client says something as benign as, "Oh yeah, my wife and I always argue about that. Ha ha ha," and it's just normal conversation. Yet the advisor doesn't have the skill to slow down the conversation and see if what they're actually intending to do in that moment is to reach out to you for help in your role as a financial advisor. So you're in a normal conversation, they say something. It might be a call for help or a cry for help. It may be they're sending out a lifeline just to see if you know anything about this topic. And if so, maybe you can help them. But the point is, the responsibility is on you. You don't just yuck it up and then when you're finished with the conversation, you just say, "Hey, it's been great catching up with you. You know, see you next time." I'm saying you need to never miss an opportunity. And I'm not saying that every time somebody says something that might obliquely lead to business, that that's exactly what they're intending to do. No, I'm saying you don't know. And therefore, you can't miss any of those opportunities. You have to be able to skillfully slow down the conversation, back it up to the comment that they made, ask them, say, "That sounds like a significant financial issue to me. Is it?" And they say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. When my spouse and I argue, it's often about money." Ha 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 ha. Really? Well, I have a process for helping couples get on the same page financially. If that's a problem that something you'd like to resolve, be happy to help you if that's something you'd like me to do. And they say, "No, no, no, I was just commenting about what you said about something, and I was just making a joke." Okay, fine. So now we know that's not was the purpose of why they brought it up. But can you see what I'm saying? What if it had gone the other way? What if they would have said, "Really? So how would that work?" And then you could explain how your process works. In my case, we would sit down with both of you, and it takes about an hour. Anyway, you get the point. I will never miss the opportunity. My question to you is, do you? Now that comes to the question for this video. What is the rule of 72? Okay, so financial advisors are on YouTube hunting around for things to make them better financial advisors. And I know that when people are Googling, what is the rule of 72, or what is the 72 rule, it may be that if they don't know that rule, they're seeking to learn it so they can be a better financial advisor. So my niche is not so much newer advisors who don't know what the rule of 72 is. My niche is more skilled, experienced, I would call them frustrated veterans who know what the rule of 72 is. I just want to make sure that you are capable and skillful at being able to deploy the rule of 72 and things like that. That, if you have above average technical competence, I'm not a fan of you giving free advice to your friends in these interactions where you're just catching up with friends. No, I think that's unprofessional, but that's my opinion. If it's more professional to be able to spot when someone needs financial advice and then offer to help them, but to shift over into the formal environment, that, well, if that's a serious issue, then let's schedule an appointment in my office for both of you. Bring all your financial documents and we will work to resolve this issue. Okay. So I think that's the only professional approach. So I'm telling you my biases, but I want to get back to how you never miss an opportunity. So how on earth would you use the rule of 72 to never miss an opportunity? Well, I'll give you an example. In this day and age, what are the topics that just come up in regular conversation? If you're sitting down with a friend or you're sitting down with an acquaintance and you're just catching up and you're talking about non-business things, you're just developing a relationship with another human being, and you're just talking about miscellaneous stuff. How often does the subject of inflation come up? And not so much the topic of inflation itself, but the topic of how prices are rising. So I bring this up because I just saw an article in one of the New York newspapers about this guy who walked into a McDonald's. All right. He ordered French fries and a shake. I kid you not, just those two items. He ordered French fries and he ordered a chocolate shake. And it cost $17. And it literally knocked his socks off. I mean, he was like, holy macaroni, when did something flip and all of a sudden a French fries and a shake are $17? But do you see, that's what I'm talking about. Maybe you're talking with an acquaintance and maybe just on the news that morning, it said, hey, the Department of Labor just released the consumer price index, and it looks like good news. Inflation is down. It's 3%, and last year it was 9%. And they make it sound like prices are going down. To which somebody in the group says, 3%? Are you kidding me? Have you never filled up your car lately? I mean, the price of gas has doubled, in recent memory. Or eggs or milk, or, that's the whole thing. It's like how fast does your income have to be rising just to stay even? So if you know the rule of 72, you know that the math hack is, if you take 72 and you divide it into the number, it's how long it takes that number to double. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that they released the inflation number and it's 3. So you take 72 divided by 3 and you get 24. Okay, so that's your hack. And you could sit there and do that on your phone and say, great, well, if costs are going up 3% per year, well, that in my business, that makes things a little bit easier. That means that, if you're living off $10,000 a month now, or $30,000 a month now, whatever you're living off of now, it has to double in how many years? 24 years. So you got to, let's say you're living on 10,000 now. Well, you got 24 years to raise your income every year, so that 24 years from now, you're making $20,000, because at 3%, that's what we're talking about. In other words, you use the rule of 72 to kind of deploy our skills as financial advisors into the conversation. And then they say, but it's not 3%. It's closer to, well, like gasoline and eggs and milk and so many things I buy are like double. And you say, well, that's because in the government number, they don't include everything. For example, in that 3% number, they don't include energy, they don't include food prices, they don't include housing prices. So yeah, the things that you're noticing, which are up closer to 20%, year over year, many of these things, they're not included. And so then the question would be, well, what if on the things that I buy, things are going up 20%? So I take my 72 divided by 20. Well, if the things you buy are going up 20% per year and you're living off $10,000 a year now, you better have a plan to have $20,000 a year 3.6 years from now, because at 20%, prices double every 3.6 years. Now, do you see how this conversation could kind of merge what we know as financial advisors into just a normal conversation? And at let's say at this point, the non-client says, well, I'm glad inflation's back down to 3%, because my income doesn't double every 4 years. And you say, well, unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way. Inflation goes up and down, but prices just go up. So, they might go up slower now. Like instead of last year, they went up 20%. Maybe this year they go up 3%, but it's like a ratchet. It always goes up. It never comes back down, And so then they say, well, what have things gone up in the last, let's say, 3 years instead of just 1 year, or all these games they're playing, and you say, well, even the government number, when you take out things we buy like energy and food and housing costs, even their number, if you go back 3 years instead of 1 year, it's up like 20%, or whatever the number is. I'm recording this, it's about 20% over the last 3 years. But do you see now how now we're back to needing to double your income every 3.6 years? But at that point, they're like, wow, I have a problem. That is not something that's in my plan. And my financial advisors never talked about stuff like this. And then at that point, you have not missed the opportunity. If you slow it down and say, well, you say that's a problem. Is that how big of a problem is that in your situation? Like if things did start doubling every 4, 5, 10 years, like shorter periods of time, how much of a problem would that be for you? Oh, that would be a disaster. I was thinking about, I was hoping to sell my business and have financial independence 3 years from now, but I guess I need to sit down with my financial advisor. And then you could say, well, we have a process for dealing with issues like that. And if and we help people that are struggling with a significant financial issue. It's okay if you have a financial advisor. We could schedule a meeting if that's something that you'd like to do, and maybe you could take this information back to your financial advisor and then deal with this issue. Really, how would that work? And now you're on your way. All I'm trying to make a point is, I'm not trying to train you into what to say. I'm trying to give you examples of how you could just turn normal conversations into a problem. Because at the end of the day, what do we do as a bottom line skill? We take our clients' financial problems and we create a strategy to eliminate or overcome these problems so that the client can, while addressing all the problems, nevertheless still achieve their financial goals. So you get what I'm saying. And that's what I mean. I wanted to give you, and I'll probably do several videos on this. It just occurred to me today because of this article about French fries and a shake being $17. And I had a younger financial advisor ask me about the rule of 72. And I thought, I wonder if skilled financial advisors are thinking about how do you use basic skills from our profession, like the rule of 72, how do you deploy that out in the world when you're in client acquisition mode, talking with non-clients? How do you use that to never miss an opportunity if it arises where a client or a potential client, a non-client, is presenting a problem, maybe a financial problem that you can help them resolve? So that's all I had for today. I tell you, it's all about mindset. And when you come to client acquisition skills, this whole idea of never missing an opportunity is a mindset issue. I'm going to put it as a client acquisition topic for today in our YouTube channel. But I can tell you, if you have a mindset that I'm going to go into every conversation with every non-client with my antenna and my radar up, and I'm going to deploy my skills just to do nothing more than see if anybody that in my orbit has any financial problem that they are in any way trying to describe to me, even obliquely, I'm never missing that opportunity. That's the mindset issue. So take care.